Hi YouTube, this is Semkyu here and welcome to Pokemon Gym Review. And today we're going to review the Kanto Gym. So how would we do it? Well, we'll be rating them from 1 to 5 stars. So that's it. If 1 if they're bad and 5 and if they're good, depending how good they are. So let's start off with our first gym, the home of the first gym is in Pewter City with its rocky gym leader Brock. And we have the Pewter City Gym. So, how would we do this? We're going to go through each of the generations until up to their latest iteration. So, first up, we got our Pewter City Gym with Gen 1. We have here, look at this. It's a very simple gym with lots of rocks to signify the rock types, and that's not a very rocky floor, but it's good enough. We have one trainer here and another there. And the gym up in his little own side there. Very nice. The gym is very simple at this state, and I think it's very clean for a rock type gym. However, it is kinda lacking in certain aspects such as puzzles and interesting aspects or that differentiates it from any other gym of its type. Okay, so after that, we have the second iteration, which is in the Gen 2, when in the Johto games. Looks like the gym is pretty much the same. Of course, there is color now because it's in Generation 2. And we can see that the rocks have been moved quite a bit. It's actually a pretty good one to add because it gives the gym a sense of balance in its structure as a rock band. Next up, we're going to its third iteration, which is in the Generation 3 games. Here we have a massive redesign compared to the last two gens. Here we have, instead of Brock being on a separate room, we have Brock on a pedestal of rock. And we have some stones scattered around to form a certain pattern. And we have the trainer out at the side. This gym actually improves a lot. Here we can see also the floor has been changed quite a bit to have a more rocky look to it instead of a simple tatami in simple floor. Very good improvement in terms of design compared to the other iterations. And here we have the 4th gen gym, which is a very nice one. It kind of looks very similar, much more similar to the first and second iteration of the gym, but with a much more rocky design to it. Here we have the huge rocks on the side, and we have the stations for where other people can see it. It's actually very nice, so that is great. And we also have 2 trainers now instead of 1. And it's not much of a puzzle, but you can actually dodge the trainers as well, which is very nice. This one is very good, but it kind of went back to the much more simple look to it in terms of formation. But it kind of kept up the design of rock being on a pedestal and having 2 rock as decorations beside it, which is really good improvement as well. And lastly, our latest iteration is in Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee. And this takes a bit of mixture from all of the components, but primarily from its previous one, which is the Gen 4 one, where we see rocks here and we have the seats over on the sides and Brock being at the pedestal with 2 rocks here. And it also has the more ground floor that we have seen in the Gen 3 iteration. Huh! Overall, this rock gym looks pretty good. In its latest iteration, it had undergone a lot of improvements compared to its first iteration in Gen 1. And aside from the blue flooring, I don't have anything else to criticize against this. It has a rocky feel, and for a first gym, it's nice and simple. Oh, another criticism is there's not a lot of puzzles in it. It's just a simple, straight go through the block, which is actually pretty thematic for a rock type gym. But however, I'm gonna have to give this one a solid rock hard 4 out of 5 stars. As you can see, yep, 4 or 5 stars. Yeah. All right. Next up, we have the Cerulean City Gym. All right. Home of the tomboy mermaid Misty. Now let's look at its first iteration in Gen 1. Here we have a very cool, simple design for a gym. It's a bunch of pool. It's a pool with a lot of tiles and floors in it as a waterway towards Misty. It's not very much. It's not very much, but it's very simple, and we have swimmers as trainers swimming in the pool. The design is very nice. However, it's kind of lacking on some sort of cohesive design in terms of the waterways. I like the pool part, but it's kind of lacking as well as in the design department, as well as in the puzzle department. However, compared to the first look at the gym where it's just a bunch of rocks, having the water around it and the poolside aesthetic is actually a nice change of pace. Next up, we have going to the second iteration, which is pretty identical to the first one, except with the colors, and you can see that this one, we have bricks as the layering for the waterways, which in my opinion is actually pretty bad looking. I prefer if they use some sort of wooden planks or something compared to this pink bricks, and I don't really like it. But we can see here that the tiles around it is actually looking pretty nice. Okay, next up, we're going to its third iteration. And this one actually looks much better. We have the pool ladders. We have the pool waterways to actually look like diving boards. And we have the tiles around it looking pretty reminiscent of an actual pool. This one looks really good. It's very simple. The only thing it's lacking is the poolside, the waterways, and the puzzle aspects to it. And it doesn't really change much in terms of design compared to the other iterations, but it looks good. Very clean. Next up, we're going to its fourth one, which is this one. Here we have an actual something to it, some depth to it. We have the pool side where people are actually training and competing against each other in a race. Swimming pool is an actual competitive swimming pool gym, which actually is a bonus points because compared to a simple swimming pool, it's a gym. You know, it behaves like a gym, and it seems it keeps its tiles, which actually looks pretty good. And we have Misty up there, up on a pedestal as a lifeguard or something, and we have some uh, seats available on the side, as well as ladders and lifesavers, and which is good. However, it doesn't really look as striking or as neat compared to its other iterations. And lastly, here we have the final iteration of the Cerulean City Gym. Here we can see at the sides that there's a lot more decorations in it. We have corals on the tiles and some sort of clam seat and corals on this drone, which is actually a bonus points because she is a mermaid, you know. And then we have the tiles here, which is pretty similar to the other ones. And for the waterways, we have glass ones, which are actually for the waterways, we actually have tile one, we have glass ones, which actually works pretty well because instead of having a waterway blocking the pool scene, the tiles actually gives being transparent gives it a much more clear look, and it looks very nice, especially if when the water refracts and reflects on it. And we have on the side some diving boards, which is actually pretty nice. And you can see up on the sides of it, there are actually ways to have people watch it. And what really sells this for me is the symmetry and the greatness of the glass tiles as a waterways. Because of the glass tile, the glass placements, it actually has a symmetry to it, which looks pretty nice, as well as the glass tiles really sells it. You know, it looks really damn good. And with that, I will have to give the Cerulean City Gym a solid 5 stars. Our next city is the home of the Streak Lightning Surge Gym Leader, Lieutenant Surge. Alright, so for this is the first gym in the whole game which actually incorporates puzzles to it. However, if that puzzle was good or not, we'll see. So in its first iteration, we have this. We have some trainers in it and some doors that will open when we find that switches on the trash bins. Unfortunately, this place doesn't have much to it. The only thing it has going for it in terms of design is the puzzle. And in my experience, that puzzle is actually quite annoying. Because it is pretty much luck based outside of, you know, guessing the nearest one. It's pretty much luck based and it can get quite annoying if you're really unlucky. And it doesn't really pose much of a puzzle since it's so luck based and you just click on the nearest one. Hopefully you will get it. So that's it for the first gym. It has a Lieutenant Surge has his own room with the bookshelf in it, I guess. It doesn't really offer much in terms of design. So let's move on to the second iteration. In the second iteration, it's pretty much the same, some flooring differences over here and there. Other than that, there's not much difference. Next up, the third iteration. Now this one Looks really good. Here, we have the Pokeball things being actually turned into trash cans where you can find the switches. You can also see the generators here or something. And you can see that instead of a simple door with a switch, it is a lightning thingy, which is actually pretty dangerous, but it serves the aesthetic. And you can see on the walls there are actually some connectors, wires, and stuff. The tiles actually look pretty nice, and Lieutenant Surge's throne is actually pretty cozy and very electrified looking with its conducive materials. Actually, this is the best improvement that you can have for this gym. Instead of simple Pokeball switch things, you actually have a design here. This will bump up the numbers really good. And here we have the fourth iteration in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. This iteration doesn't really improve much on the previous one. It keeps the same stuff and such. The only major difference here are the actual art style and the placement of the lightning thingies being there. Honestly, I think this one is an actual downgrade. The placement of the lightning barriers, while they have something technologically cool about it, it doesn't look as good. It feels very out of place and the distance doesn't really look good compared to the previous one where you can see it's connected, it's clear, and it's concise. Now, moving on to its last iteration, here we have the Pokemon Let's Go and EV Vermillion City Gym. Alright. Here, you can see, as well as the other gyms, some sides were added to have spectators in it. The trash cans have blue and red in it, which is actually very interesting colors. It helps with the switches and such. The switches location is placed with these Tesla coils here. And we have Lieutenant Surge having these barrels of red blue here, which is actually very thematically aesthetic with its plus and minus or positive to the negative charges of electricity that we know of. However, in terms of the tiles, the looks, I think the Generation 3 is still much better compared to this iteration. And also, it kind of looks more like a alleyway with garbages in it compared to an actual electric gym. For that, I'm gonna have to give the Vermillion City Gym around 3 out of 5 stars. You know? Yeah. Next up, we have the Celadon City Gym. Alright. Home to the very pretty perfumed lady Erica, who commands grass types at her will. This gym, I think one of the best looking first generation gyms. We have the flowers, the trees, and the bushes with some wooden floors on it as a runway. And we have Erica here in the corner covered by 3 cut bushes. And that's pretty much it. This is a very good looking gym, but quite a simple one. It needs a TM to operate it and doesn't really provide much of a puzzle. Okay, with that, it looks nice for its part. We're moving on to the second iteration, which is a much more simple pathway, very reminiscent of the Brock's Gym, where it's just a simple straight line to Erica. However, in its design, it actually looks much better. The color really provides it with the green. And these flower boxes here actually serves pretty nice covers and walls. However, it doesn't really offer much as well. It also kinda lost its floral pattern on the floor compared to the first iteration. Now let's move on to its fourth iteration. This one looks much more like the first iteration of the Celadon City Gym, where we have the trees, the cut needed, and the flowers. The only difference this one is, aside from the art improvements, are the ground is actually a ground, which is actually good because it's a plant type gym and it needs ground. And we have these flowers inside Erica, and Erica is placed much more nicer being in the center compared to the other one, which is around left side. Like you can't even tell here who is the gym leader aside from their sprites. This is a solid improvement, but not by a long shot. And now we're moving on to the fourth iteration. This one is a massive overhaul to the design of the Celadon City Gym. Here we have the maze-like pattern of the floral part of the gym. There's a lot more flowers. The arches look really, really well. And we have Erica here sitting up at the top of the gym, looking nice and pretty. And that's pretty much it. It looks really nice, although I would say the arches look pretty messy, in my opinion. Alright, that's it. Now let's move on to the final iteration. This one looks the best, in my opinion, in terms of the iterations of the Celadon City Gym. It also incorporates a lot, much more different style to it. With the flower arches, the bushes, more flowers on the side, the pathways look very tiles, very reminiscent of an actual garden stall that you would encounter in real life when you're visiting gardens, greenhouses, yes, and such. And we have also fences here, which is actually looks pretty nice in combination with the flowers, because it reminds us of our home gardens and such. And this gym also takes inspiration from the other gyms, from its either fourth iteration, which is the maze part. And it does it pretty well, because instead of a three-way choose your own path gym separated by messy ruins, it's an actual gym where it kinda lets you have a stroll in the actual garden before letting you meet with Erica. And at the top center, we can see that there's a giant tree behind Erica and a huge grass patch and bushes, which actually serves nice as a battlefield for our gym battle against Celadon. With that, the Celadon City Gym is actually a really cool, pretty gym. Its first four iterations is not really the best, but its Let's Go and Eevee and Pikachu version is carries it so much in terms of design, in my opinion. For that, I'm gonna have to give this one 4 stars out of 5. Yep. Moving on to our fifth gym, the Fuschia City Gym. Home of the two ninjas, Koga and Janine during the second generation and the fourth generation part of Fuschia City. Now, this gym is actually very interesting because it uses invisible walls as some sort of challenge when traversing through the gym. Let's move on to its first iteration, which is a simple room with invisible walls. Clearly, you can see it a little bit here on the parts of it. And it's a pretty simple room. It doesn't look not that great, honestly. The invisible walls and the tatami mats are interesting and cool looking. But other than that, this is a pretty bare bones gym in my opinion. Moving on to its second iteration. Look, it's the second iteration with the red carpet in the beginning, and honestly, it doesn't look that much different. Not much to be said here. Not very interesting, I guess. It's pretty bare bones. And here we have its third iteration. Here, we actually have some good improvements here. The tiles are a lot more different. The walls are harder to see, and we have Koga in the middle with a certain platform for him that separates him from the rest. Now, this is an actual improvement. However, the gym itself, primarily using the invisible walls, makes it look pretty bare bones in terms of design. And also, the visible walls themselves are not really interesting because they're just invisible walls. Here we have the next iteration of the Fuschia City Gym. It actually looks much more like a ninja dojo thingy. And outside of that, there's not really much to say about here. It just looks like a simple dojo thing. The mats and the doors around. Okay, moving on to its final iteration. This one is the best iteration, in my opinion, of the gym. The wooden floors, as well as the platform, as well as the walls, and the whole aesthetic of the gym looks pretty nice when using it with the invisible walls. You can also see some of the sides again where people can watch. In terms of looks, it looks very, very clean. And I honestly, if it weren't for those very, very clean looking floors, it would have gone up. It would have had 2 star out of 5. But based on those floors and walls alone, this gym is a solid 3 stars. Moving on to the Saffron City Gym. This one's an exciting one. During its first iteration, this is the gym, the actual first gym that uses specific brain power in terms of pathing with regards to getting to the gym leader. It uses these teleporters to get around to the gym where you have Sabrina in the middle waiting for you there with the gym. Honestly, it looks pretty good. The checkered tiles and the design of the teleporters with one trainer per room is actually pretty damn nice. It doesn't really offer much in terms of design outside of that, but I think it looks pretty nice and the puzzle really makes up for its design. Next up, the second iteration, which actually looks super duper duper similar to the first iteration, except with the changes in terms of the design of the floor and the tile and the teleport tiles. Not much has changed, but I really like the new design for the teleport tiles. The contrast compared to the floor tiles is much better compared to the first iteration. And here we have the fourth iteration. Third iteration of the Saffron City Gym. This one actually looks pretty darn nice. There's a change in the tiles, in the floor tiles as well as the teleport tiles. In terms of the placement, it actually looks pretty much cleaner compared to the first and second iterations, which is a bit much more messier in terms of the placement. We have 4 corners in certain placements, and you have to guess which one to go to. You have to guess and memorize each one to go to Sabrina. And Sabrina herself has her own little podium here that is actually pretty nice. Very clean. Very stop. The design is still a little bit more simple in terms of design, but for a gym that incorporates puzzles and has a lot of aspects to it, it looks pretty darn good in its third iteration. And here, oh wow, this one is interesting. The fourth iteration of the Saffron City Gym resulted in a massive overhaul in terms of design. Here we have the green teleport tiles and a very mechanism look in terms of the floors. And we also have these wires and such tubes around it, making it look like more of like a brain tube or something relating to the psychic type. And we have Sabrina in the middle having her own little throne. And it looks like she has control over this facility. Honestly, it looks pretty nice, but I don't really think it really fits well in terms of the Saffron City psychic type gym. It's still a pretty good design innovation though. And here we have in its Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu variation. And honestly, this is the best. In terms of looks, grandiose, and everything. This gym, Let's Go in Pikachu and Eevee, looks so darn fucking good. Saffron City is a very metropolitan area, I think, where there's a lot of huge buildings, and this one incorporates it. The psychic layers around it looks pretty damn good with the purple and the cyan. And with the bright lights on the city buildings, the placements of the city buildings going up to the top, where there is Sabrina with the rays and such, looking really, really nice. And actually, this one makes the whole thing much better. Because instead of teleporting into some closed boxes, you actually teleport to the top of the buildings, which makes more sense rather than simple walls you teleport into the box. And the final building with the blue line at the middle where Sabrina sits. It's really, really nice. This gym is the first gym which incorporates an actual legitimate passing puzzle to it. And with that, I have nothing to say but great things about it. The Saffron City Gym gets a solid 5 stars. Yep. Next up, we have the Cinnabar City Gym. Now this one's an interesting one. Because the Cinnabar City Gym has undergone lots of many changes. This gym incorporates the volcanoes and quiz shows. So let's look at the first iteration, which is a simple room-to-room question and answer. This is the question and answer aspect to it. Looks pretty nice, in my opinion. You answer the question. If you get it wrong, you fight the trainer. Other than that, there's not much of fire thing really incorporated in this gym. Maybe the heat of answering the question, but other than that, not much can be said about the design of the gym. The Q&A, question and answer part, is really quiz type. It's really just the whole gimmick of this gym, with brain at the end of the challenges. And this one is one of the biggest changes. Because during the second part, something happened and the Cinnabar Gym was moved to a place inside a volcano. And honestly, this one's a disappointment in my opinion. Because you could have done much more to an inside of a volcano instead of just some rocks in a cave. This would be much better if it's like the final place to a rock type gym or something. But for a fire type, yeah, this that look good. Next up, we have the third iteration gym. This one is a much more good look in terms of the quiz show. Here we have the same answer the questions in a row, and if you answer it right, you go to the next one, and if it's wrong, you fight a trainer. Honestly, in terms of design, it doesn't really look that well. The podium in which Blaine sits is a very, very simple carpet. It doesn't really look like a fire type gym. And the question and answer is like pretty simple in terms of progression. And here we have the fourth iteration, which actually looks the best. However, it kind of lost some touch on the question and the quiz type thing that Blaine has going on for him. And it uses much more of the volcano part that it takes place in during the second part of the Johto Kanto journeys. You know, the fire tiles look really, really awesome. The flame thing, as you can see, there's a pattern here. It actually looks like an actual flame in terms of the fire, in terms of the tiling, with the yellow part here, the orange part, and the red part on the outskirts. This one looks really, really good. And the bright lights in the middle with Blaine in the middle looks pretty darn nice. And lastly, we have this one, which is actually a quiz show. The Cinnabar City Gym is an actual quiz show where there are audiences, cameras, and such, and you fight Blaine after the quiz show happens. And honestly, this is a fun gimmick. However, it doesn't really look nice for a fire type gym. The quiz thing is very nice, but I'm not really digging it in terms of gym type thing. So, because of that, even though the quizzes are very fun and such, I have to give the Cinnabar City Gym a very low score of only 2 stars. And last but not the least, you have the Viridian City Gym. Now, the interesting part is this gym also has undergone lots and lots of iterations. For a first iteration, here we have the patting puzzle of the loop-de-loop tiles thingy where it sends you somewhere when you step on it. This one is actually an interesting puzzle pathing type thing. And the design is made up so where you can get sent back if you step the wrong way, or like, you know, in order to fight all the trainers, you gotta go somewhere, dodge something, step on sometimes, and out of all the gyms, I think the Viridian City Gym is the most interesting gym. It uses the look forward tiles from the Team Rocket hideout because Giovanni is the gym leader here and such. Now, it looks very bare bones in terms of design, but the fun aspect of the puzzle really steps up the game for it. Now, moving on to the second iteration of the Viridian City Gym, headed by Blue. And this is a massive downgrade. We only have these Lego thingies here as some sort of walls cascaded here and design placed in some way to look like something, but other than that, this is a pretty bare bones, straightforward gym with nothing really to offer for it. Maybe Blue is just not the best in terms of design here. And moving on to the third iteration, this one looks very similar to the first iteration, having the same designs in terms of the loop-de-loops and the tiles, and the only differences is the art, which is actually a massive improvement. The floor tiles look so good in those green and things, and the stopping points looks very stoppable, you know, with the things. And we also have Giovanni here with a very cool gold-plated, I don't know, carpet or something. Yeah. Other than that, the tiles look good and the walls look nice, but there's not much interesting going on here compared to its previous iterations. Next up, we have this. Honestly, this one, Blue tried to use the forward tile things, but I think it's just a little bit too messy. Honestly, it's a little bit messy. There's no pattern to the colors. There's nothing here. It's the same one as this one. The only difference is that it has the puzzle in terms of the loop-de-loops. But it doesn't really look good. I'm sorry, Blue. Just not up to you for designing gyms, man. And we have, last but not the least, it's modern iteration. And let's go Pikachu and Eevee. In terms of the wallings, design, aesthetic, this one is by far the best out of all of them. The railings and the color palette really looks very fancy. You know, something that you would expect from your local mafia boss something. And the loop-de-loops and the stopping tiles really translated well. Aside from the stopping tiles, the forward tiles translated well in the 3D aspect of the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. The floors look very, very nice, comfy, elegant, and such. And the railings looks very fine with the wood and the things compared to those massive brick walls around during the third iteration and the first iteration. The railings look very clean. Very nice. It's like a restaurant, honestly, at this point. If you just replace some parts with like seats and chairs, you could argue that this looks like a fine dine restaurant. Very fitting for your elegant mafia boss. Not very much fitting for a ground type trainer, honestly, but materialism and ground, there can be some sort of correlation and such. But with that wraps up our Viridian City Gym review. And honestly, this gym has a lot of differences in terms of interpretation from our two gym leaders, Giovanni and Blue. And I think both of them does not have the best in terms of design, but Giovanni's last iteration really offers it a lot. And with that, because of that, just because of Blue alone, I'm gonna have to bump this down into a 3-star gym. With that, our gym leaders and their gyms in Kanto gyms are wrapped up. We have Rock here, Misty, Serge, Erica, Koga, Janine, Sabrina, Blaine, Giovanni, and Blue. And honestly, for the first set of gyms with the simple designs and simple puzzles, a lot of them offered a lot. But there are really some aspects that are just too bare bones, in my opinion. Because of that, I would rate the whole Kanto gyms a solid 3 stars. That's it. Thank you guys for watching. Please press like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the Johto Gym review. Bye!